On September the 10th, 2025, news broke that stunned the world. Charlie Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA and a rising conservative figure, was shot while speaking at Utah Valley University. He later died from his injuries at just 31 years old. Today, we're looking at how Reddit reacted. From shock to debate to reflection, the site became a mirror of how people were trying to process something so sudden and violent. So let's have a look at Reddit's reaction, not just to the news, but to what it means for politics, free speech, and democracy itself. The first wave of comments wasn't about politics, it was about raw shock. Whether people liked Charlie Kirk or not, the reaction was the same. This should not be happening in America. And that tone set the stage. For a brief few hours, Reddit felt united, horrified, saddened, and aware that something bigger than politics had just happened. One user said on r/GenZ, "I personally don't align politically with him, but no one deserves to get murdered in broad daylight like this. Political violence is never good." And somebody else said, "I don't care who you support. This isn't the way democracy works. This is horrifying." Once the shock wore off, Reddit began dissecting the details. People pointed out the planning it would have taken. A long-range rifle, a rooftop vantage point. This wasn't random, it was deliberate. Others looked at the bigger picture. If someone this high profile could be killed so openly, what does that say about how fragile our political spaces have become, especially given the year that we've been through? This wasn't just about one man anymore. It was about the system's vulnerability that's been tested again and again. On r/centrist, somebody said, "It was a rifle shot well over 100 meters away. This type of assassination is planned and hard to prevent without massive security presence." Somebody else said, "If a high-profile political figure can be taken out like this in broad daylight, it says something about how fragile our security systems really are." But as the hours went by, Reddit's unity sadly cracked. And this, I suppose, is the point of this video. In r/Joe Rogan, for example, mods had to step in with a blunt warning saying, literally, "Do not celebrate this. Please do not celebrate the shooting of Charlie Kirk here. Have some freaking class, even if you hate the guy." A pretty ridiculous comment to have to make, but it was made. Someone else added, "If you think this is something to celebrate, you're no better than the extremists you claim to hate." Yet, the arguments kept coming. Some users said it was karma, others lashed out at them for being hypocrites. Here, the threads became less about the shooting itself and more about what kind of community Reddit wanted to be in the face of violence. Elsewhere, conversations turned darker. Video clips of the shooting were, of course, already circulating, and people who watched them described every painful detail. Someone said on r/atheism, he was struck in the lower left neck. His slump over made me think he might have taken a hit through the spine on exit. Some regretted clicking. Yeah, I've managed to go most of my life without seeing this kind of thing. Horrible. While others focused on the human cost. Whatever your thought of Kirk's politics, his family, his friends, his colleagues, they all lost someone in an instant. His family, of course, sadly, being there when it happened. And thankfully, a few Redditors reminded each other of that, even as debates raged on elsewhere. By the end of the day, the conversation had shifted. It wasn't just about Charlie Kirk anymore, or even about Reddit debates. It was about America itself. One user wrote, "This isn't just about Charlie Kirk. It's about what kind of country we're becoming. Violence against politicians is only going to make things worse." Another warned, "We're at a point where people don't just disagree, they see the other side as enemies worth killing. That should terrify everyone, no matter what your politics are." These reflections turned the thread into something bigger, not just a reaction to a tragedy, but a warning about where politics is headed. In fact, it wasn't just politics, of course. There were thousands of comments, threads, just mega speculation about what this actually means for America as a whole. On r/AskALiberal, one of the top comments basically spelled out the darkest fear. "I worry that this will be a turning point, no pun intended, in America's political culture and might be the beginning of Civil War II. I hope I'm wrong." A lot of users were echoing the same thought, the idea that Kirk's death could actually push America closer to something explosive. But not everyone agreed. Over on r/MarkMyWords, the topic turned to gun control. Idiots thinking the right is going to come around to sensible gun control are living outside of reality. Basically saying, don't hold your breath. This event, as tragic as it was, isn't actually going to change anything. In r/ask politics, one thread over there tried to bring things back to reality. Someone said, of course he shouldn't be shot, but on the scale of no one should be shot to, this is a crime against humanity, Charlie Kirk is at, of course no one should be shot. I'm not entirely sure how to interpret that myself, but those are the sort of comments that people are making on Reddit. I mean, I suppose it's Reddit. Even sympathy gets wrapped in sarcasm. r/economy also got involved too. Someone said, with the sudden news of the Charlie Kirk shooting, it could potentially cause immense civil chaos. If this escalates into something bigger, 2020 protests, 9/11, COVID, will it affect the economy or markets? Now, I'm not entirely sure morally where I stand about considering these sort of thoughts when something so tragic has just happened, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below, but it was definitely on the mind of certain people on Reddit. Finally, in r/centrist, someone warned about what happens when a political figure becomes a martyr. Now, should Democrats, liberals, and leftists be concerned? Him being shot opens the door for him being treated as a martyr. Martyrdom usually leads to one side being politically energized. That is, I suppose, less about policy, more about momentum. The fear that this event could actually energize his movement, not weaken it, has scared a lot of people on Reddit. So yeah, in a wider aspect, Reddit is split as usual. Some people were and are predicting a civil war. Others say that gun control is dead in the water. Some are stressing about the markets even. And then, of course, there's the martyrdom angle. Basically, a cocktail of fear, cynicism, and conspiracy theories, all being published onto Reddit within seconds, minutes, hours of the news breaking. I do think that sometimes that is where Reddit potentially lets itself down, forgetting about the human side of things and focusing too much on stuff that affects Redditors themselves. So let's get back to Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk's death will be remembered as a shocking and tragic moment in US politics. But the real story on Reddit wasn't just the news itself, it was the way people wrestled with it. From shock to anger to reflection, Reddit showed us the cycle we all go through when faced with violence. And one comment stood out above the rest. If we don't reject violence now, we're going to lose more than just one life. We're going to lose the ability to even talk to each other. And maybe that's the lesson here. Disagreement is part of democracy, but violence has to be the end of it. You're supposed to argue, protest, vote, maybe even yell online, but the moment bullets replace words, the whole system breaks down. Thankfully, even on a site like Reddit, where people clash every day over politics, identity, and culture, this tragedy became a moment where most people agreed on one thing: political violence has no place here. So if there's one meaning to take from all of these threads, it's this: disagreement isn't the enemy. Division isn't even the enemy. Violence is, because once violence takes over, there's nothing left to argue about, just silence. If you found this breakdown meaningful, subscribe to my channel for more stories straight from Reddit. If you've been around on my channel for a while, you'll know this isn't my usual sort of video, but I wanted to make it. And I think it's important to see how Reddit and the internet and people as a whole reacted to this absolute tragedy. Leave your comments down below. I want to know your thoughts on the whole thing and what you think this means for the future of democracy. Until next time, stay safe, speak up, and remember, words are always better than violence. Rest in peace, Charlie Kirk.